am now halfway through my travels, spending a month in Thailand and having an amazing time at the riverside of the Mekong in Luang Prabang and the chill town of Vang Vieng. Having overcome my dengue infection in Vientiane, I continue further south, trying to make the most of my time that I had left in Laos. The next morning, a fellow backpacker from the hostel joined me on my excursion to the Buddha Park.
It's huge.
A 30-minute bus ride away from the main bus station.
Can go in there, I guess.
After showing up at the hospital in the morning in Vientiane, I had a full day left where I was finally allowed to explore a little of the city I was in. The sculpture park is situated right at the Mekong, which at this spot separates Laos from Thailand. It was built by a Thailand Ocean shaman who wanted to establish a new sect by integrating Buddhism and Hinduism. The sculptures itself are made from concrete and were built by followers of the Bunli Sulihat sect. When the communists took over the government in 1975, Bunli Sulihat escaped to Thailand and the Ocean government transformed the park into a public space. We returned from the park after it turned dark and went to the riverfront of the Mekong again, where an entertainment park for children was set up. Today was going to be my first travel day again after being stuck in Vientiane for 9 long days. I wanted to go to Paxe for a quick stopover of 2 days before moving on to the 4,000 islands on the most southern tip of the country. But things didn't go quite according to plan, so after around 5 hours, a tire of the bus burst and we had an involuntary break. Back on the road again, I was watching the landscape passing me by and just listened to music until...
Ja, also die 9 Stunden waren ja wohl glatt gelogen. Ey. Wir sind jetzt seit 16 Stunden unterwegs. Und hier wird erstmal fröhlich das Dach entladen. Keine Ahnung, was hier abgeht. Ey. Inzwischen sind wir 19 Stunden unterwegs. Nach 130 bis Paxe. Hier wieder fröhlich Pakete verladen, Alter. Ich raff's nicht. Diese geile LED-Dinger haben sie alle. Schön blinken können sie nämlich. Alter, ich bin todesmüde, Mann.
So after 19 hours, we were finally close to my destination, but yet had to drop a lot of locals at their exact living addresses before I finally arrived after 24 long hours on this rundown bus. I arrived at 8 AM in the morning and dropped dead on my bed as soon as I checked into my hotel room and slept until afternoon. After waking up again, I headed out into the streets of Paxe. I visited one of the most ancient temples in the center of Paxe. It dates back to the year 1935 and initially was built to serve as a Buddhist school teaching numerous courses in English and cultural studies for monks. Since I didn't eat the whole bus ride, I was looking for some food at a local market, but mainly selling raw ingredients there, I ended up getting some fried skewers at some street food vendors. Due to the bus ride taking 3 times longer than expected, I lost an entire day in Paxe, but decided not to extend my stay and rather move on to the 4,000 islands instead. From Paxe, it is only a short minivan ride to the town of Nakasong, where the boats to Don Dat depart. Mainly known for its trendy island atmosphere and backpacker culture, I wanted to visit the island myself and have some chill days in the arms of the Mekong.
Ein kleines Bungalow hier. Im eigenen Bad. Sogar mit Strom. Es gibt einfach Orte auf dieser Welt, das ist Wahnsinn. Don Dat, 4,000 Islands.
I was immediately overwhelmed by how beautiful, calm and friendly the island and the people on it were. I ate some delicious Indian food at one of the riverside restaurants and continued exploring the island. Unfortunately, a big thunderstorm was hanging over the southern part of Laos at the moment, and so there was not much left to do than walk around in between the showers from above. As the sky darkened, I sought refuge in Adam's Spa, who sells some shirts to backpackers with the slogan, "Been there, done that." Fortunately, it only started raining when I got back to my bungalow, but kept raining for the rest of the night, so I went to bed quite early. Waking up the next morning, I saw the weather did not improve overnight, so I decided to move on the next day and just have another chilled day walking around the tiny island. I fooled around with some local children, and when it started raining again, I went to the ticket office to get my boat for tomorrow sorted. On my way back, I stumbled into a familiar face. Paddy Doyle had just arrived on the island to produce some content for his channel. He invited me to have some beers with him later, and so we played song guessing in all imaginable versions. We successfully cleared the hostel's fridge of all remaining beers and had an amazing evening together. Even Chris, the guy I met while tubing in Vientiane, had made his way to the island on his motorbike by now.
Smiles from a bell. Do you think you can tell? Did they get you to train? Young heroes to go. Hot ashes from trees.
So it was already time for me to leave Dondet, since I had just booked my boat before meeting these amazing characters. But I was looking forward to traveling to Cambodia today and actually felt a bit nervous about the border crossing, since I'd heard so many stories about being scammed there.
Cambodia, welcome.
Looking forward to the ride?
Fortunately, everything worked for me without any issues.
Unser super Van. Und wie immer, eigentlich sind wir schon seit 20 Minuten da. Die Gruppe hat noch richtig Bock hier.
I arrived at my hostel in Siem Reap in the early evening hours, and to my surprise there was nothing going on but a big soccer world championship watching event. I went to bed early and woke up re-energized and ready to explore a new city in a new country. Cambodia has a population of around 16.6 million people. The Angkor Wat complex is the world's largest religious building, and the Cambodian flag is the only one in the world with a building on it. The US dollar is one of the national currencies in the country, but local currency is the Cambodian riel with an exchange rate of 4,000 riel to $1.
You crazy mother.
I used the time and socialized at the hostel for some hours until finding a group of people to head out and explore Siem Reap together. I was joined by Josh from the UK, Dan and Devon from the US, and Alex from Australia. We had no specific destination, so we just walked around until we stumbled into something interesting. The temple's history dates back to the 13th century, and it invites you with a beautiful garden and a lot of paintings depicting the life of Buddha. Next to the main Buddha statue is a reclining Buddha which dates back to the 15th century. It's a beautiful temple, creating a peaceful spot in the middle of the hectic city streets. Back at the hostel, I connected with some travelers to join them on their plan for the upcoming day. This was going to be one of my absolute highlights on this trip. So I joined Roberto and Jana, a German couple, and Alex from Australia to visit Angkor Wat, the largest religious monument in the world. Covering an area 4 times the size of the Vatican, it was built by the Khmer King Suyavarman II in the first half of the 12th century, making Angkor Wat almost 900 years old. During the time it was built in, they were working with some impressive eye for detail and perfection, building the place and decorating the stone fundament. We really enjoyed exploring the temple, but the humidity and high air pressure left their mark on us. So we returned to Geko, our local TukTuk driver, who had a box full of ice and drinking water prepared for us. A single day ticket is $37, which might seem a bit pricey, but right after COVID you got a second free day with it. We moved on to the famous Bayon temple, only a kilometer ride from Angkor away. You know, the one with the faces. Back in the 12th century, King Vagabond VII began building a new capital city for the Khmer Empire, Angkor Thom. In the center of the new city, the Bayon temple was built as the main temple. But when the Khmer Empire was defeated by the aspiring Thai kingdom of J.A.K in the 15th century, the city of Angkor Thom and with it the temple lost its significance. Our TukTuk driver Geko was patiently waiting while we explored the complex and told us to be careful with the freely roaming monkeys when buying fresh fruits at the local vendors.
Another ticket checkpoint, I guess.
The Top Rome Temple was the third and last on our list, which gained fame through the Tomb Raider movie with Angelina Jolie. The temple with its grown-in trees served as a film set for some scenes. The roots of the trees are just incredible, and it illustrates the age of the whole complex in the best possible way. Right where the movie was filmed, a platform to take pictures was erected for tourists. After visiting these three impressive structures, it was time for us to head back into Siem Reap again, where we let the evening fade with some cold drinks. The next morning, I talked to a girl from Switzerland and decided to join Marie on her idea of visiting the Apopo organization, which trains rats to sniff for landmines in the countryside.
After 6 years, this unit is done.
The guide explained the different kinds of mines to us that have been clustered around the country during the secret war with the United States in the 70s. Where humans would have a hard time picking up every piece the metal detector indicates, rats have a significant advantage: their weight. These large rats from Tanzania still are light enough not to detonate the explosives, and so the organization has specialized on training them to sniff for explosive matter. If there is no such inside an object, they simply will not indicate a threat. When successfully finding something, they're trained to scratch on the surface with traditional clicker training and a small reward. The organization is completely fund-based and has successfully cleared an area of around 4 million square kilometers since being founded, with not a single rat being harmed. And the rats all have names of famous actors and heroes, so after the tour you're able to adopt the so-called hero rat for a little monthly contribution. Marie and I really enjoyed this exotic tour, which we didn't even know existed before arriving in Siem Reap. Back at our hostel, I was really hungry and decided to head out into the streets of the city again to get some food and drinks for the evening.
All die schwarzen Punkte sind Geckos. Der ist fett.
We gave the famous pub street a chance since it was just around the corner, but finding out it was just a huge public viewing event, we called it an early night. I'd taken a bus in the early morning hours to get to Phnom Penh, but I just used the city as a hub to travel on further south to reach one of the few islands in Cambodia. So my travels went on the next morning with a minivan to Sihanoukville, where I boarded the ferry to Koh Rong. Koh Rong was recommended to me by a friend of mine who visited the island on his backpacking trip a few years ago. He said it's the closest you can get to Thai beach vibes in another country. So I booked myself a private room in one of the hostels at the beach and headed out into the evening. And since it actually is in the Gulf of Thailand, I expected nothing less than relaxed beach time, beautiful sunsets and cold beers.
Ganzberg, German Beer. Bin gespannt, wie das schmeckt. Da hängt hier überall die Werbung von.
Untrinkbar.
I would say expectations exceeded. This place is just breathtaking.
They come when you're near. Why must all that I touch always fall into dust? We are fluid like the ocean waters.
The next morning, I was keen to do some more exploration of my new temporary home. I really love when you walk out with no designated destination and end up at the ocean wherever you go. So I used the morning hours to take a relaxed walk at the beach before, you can guess it, another tropical rainstorm got stuck over the island I stayed on, and it didn't stop raining for the rest of the day. I decided to get up before sunrise and watch the play of colors over the ocean. Seeing a secluded island like this waking up and coming alive is a very special experience. Yet, still I decided it was time for me to move on, since my visa for Vietnam had already begun and I didn't want to lose too many days since I still had to make my way from the south all the way up to the north of the country. And so we continue our trip, crossing the land border in Vientiane to enter Vietnam. Another 4 weeks lie ahead, partly walking in our footsteps from 5 years ago. Join me as I find out if the places I remember still exist and what made me come back to this wonderful country after 5 long years. So join me on the next episode of Vagabond.